Welcome to Grandad's Reviews. Been a while since I've done a video, but here we go, we'll have a go again. Weather's a bit stormy outside, so this one just going to do in the house. And it comes about due to what another photographer said to me. We met up in town. He'd just picked up a DSLR. It was his first camera as such, and he'd done what most of us will do. He looked at some YouTube videos to get some ideas on what to do, and he'd also joined a local camera club and asked them, you know, I've got a new camera, how should I go about learning how to use it? And in most part the advice was very similar, and it was pretty good advice. You know, start in program mode, get used to the camera, get used to the buttons, get used to the menu, so you learn the camera and where everything is, so it's muscle memory and you've got it in your mind, and then move on to different modes like aperture priority or shutter priority. But then there was one person who said to him, and I think they used the wrong words, but I've an idea of what they were trying to say, and they said if you want to get more professional, I would have said have more creative control, you need to go on to manual mode. So he'd had the camera a little while and he'd gone through the other settings, and he thought he'd got a good grasp of how the camera worked and he was enjoying it. So I thought, I'll try manual mode. So he went back on YouTube, he went back to the camera club and said, look, I'm going to manual mode, you know, some advice. So they gave him the advice. And when I spoke to him, he said, look, I'm starting to use manual mode, but to be honest, I'm not progressing. It doesn't seem to make any difference. So we sat down and said, well, show me what you're doing. So I'll show you what he's doing, and then I'll tell you why that's not manual mode. It is manual. You're using the camera manually, you're adjusting everything, but it's not being creative with manual mode. So we'll go to the camera, we'll have a look, and I'll show you what I mean. Again, this is my opinion. Everybody has their own opinion. Use your camera how you like. It's your camera. As long as you're enjoying the photography, it doesn't matter how you use it, as long as you're enjoying it. But I'll show you what I mean. We're in aperture priority mode. We've got the ISO set at 100, so that auto ISO is not mucking us about, and we can change the aperture and the camera setting, the shutter speed. So I said, right, change it to manual, let's see what we're doing. So we've kept the ISO at 100. I know it's not a great scene, it's just my hallway, but we'll go with it. We're using ISO 100 in this stage. There's nothing moving. We find we can use slow shutter speed, whatever. Because I want a bit of depth of field, we're going to use f8. I want a depth of field. He says, and I said, so what was next? He says, everyone told me that with the exposure scale there, we move the shutter speed until I'm either on 0 or in the middle. And that's it. Which is true. There's nothing wrong with that. Yeah, that is it. But you might as well have been in aperture priority mode. If I change that to aperture priority mode, look, we picked to get this at 0, 1/10 at f8. So we're going to aperture priority mode, and we go to f8. Camera's picked 1/10. So you're doing exactly what the camera says. So what I tried to explain to him was, how do you want to represent that scene? So in this case, I might want where the light switch and everything is to be darker. So what we'd have to do is change the shutter speed so that darkens it down. We'll stay on 0 again. I might want it that skylight's not blown out. So we'd bring this down 2 stops. With 2 stops under what it says. Everything else is dark. You might say, right, I want this shadow area to be lighter. So we'll slow it down again. 2/3 of a stop. So we've gone over there. That's what manual mode is to me. And it should be. You interpret the scene and then adjust your settings to get the scene to look how you've interpreted it. With mirrorless cameras, it's a lot easier. You can see it on the LCD, you can see it in the viewfinder. DSLR, it's a little more tricky. It's something you learn through experience. You look at a scene and think, well, that needs to be 1 stop lighter, or that needs to be 1 stop darker. But with digital, you can take a shot, then look on the back and say, oh, I didn't get that right. But just to adjust that, if we went wide open, just to adjust one of either the settings to get it in the center is exactly the same as if you had it in aperture priority mode, or if you were doing something with a fast action, you wanted a higher shutter speed. So you went, well, I want a 250 shutter speed, and then you adjust the aperture to get that to 0, which you can't in this case. Or even if you went, okay, I'm going to do the ISO. To change that, to get it, all you're doing is letting the camera do the work. So if I wanted this to be on at f11, get that at 0, a 5th, yeah. There's an aperture priority mode, f11, it's a 5th. So you're just in aperture priority mode. If you're in shutter priority, and you took that down to I want a real slow shutter, a 5th, it's picked f11. So if you're going to go into manual mode and adjust it to the middle position on the exposure or 0, whatever your camera says, you're doing exactly the same as what the camera. If that's what you want, that's fine. If the scene you see on the screen is what you envisage and it is at 0, that's perfectly fine. But if you want it a bit lighter, you're going to move off that. So to me, that's what manual mode is. Yes, it can be at 0, but it's more when you want more control over the scene. If it's a landscape, you want the shadows to be different or the highlights to be different, that's when manual mode comes into its own. So that's my take on it, that sometimes manual mode isn't manual mode. So yeah, that's my take on someone learning manual mode. If you're just going to stick it at 0 or the middle section on your exposure meter, you might as well be using one of the other mode, aperture priority, and let the camera do it. If the intention is where it's at 0, then that's fine. But if what you're envisioning, what you want to see, you want to alter when you're in manual mode, then you can. You can do the same with exposure compensation in the other modes if you want to. But if you have full control in manual mode, you've set your ISO, you've set the aperture for the scene you want, or the shutter speed for the scene you want, then you adjust the others to get it how you want it. That's how I look at it. And I hope that is of interest to you as well. Enjoyed the video and you want to see more like this, give it a thumbs up. That helps the channel. If you want to see more videos like this, hit that subscribe button. Till next time, see you later.